Good evening, and thank you for coming. I know that a lot of you are busy this summer, and it's difficult to get away, and I am so appreciative. I'd like to start off tonight by thanking our current board members, Larry Felton, Venki Palaman, and Jean Preto. Raise your hands. Thank you guys for coming out and helping tonight. This district also has a very rich history, and we're lucky to have some former board members with us this evening. We have Dan Fowler, we have Drew Frauenhofer, we have Maria Kluth-Hoppe, and Elaine Powers. Raise your hands. And thank you. Thank you for continuing to support the district. We're appreciative. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Kim Hannon-West. I've been working with the campaign for a few months now. And I grew up in this district. I'm an educator in the Parkway School District. I teach at Parkway North High School, and I've been in the district for 30 years. I had some prepared remarks tonight, and then I threw them away because I really wanted to talk to you as friends and neighbors. So I've been thinking a lot about the awesome power we have in this district right now, and that these are exciting times for our district. We have the ability, by passing this tax levy, to change this community and to change this district. We have the opportunity right now to become a district that not just trains its teachers, but a district that retains teachers, and we need to do that, and it's now. We have to have rookies on our team, but we also have to have veterans. And we need to keep those veterans, we need to take care of them. I have been in education, and I know I don't look a day over 21, but I've been in education about 20 years. And what I want you to understand, in that time period, here's what I've seen. And this is the pattern, this is the cycle. Communities that advocate for children, communities that fund their schools become desirable communities, and people want to live there. And what you're going to see by passing this tax levy is that people are going to see this district, this community, as a destination district. They're going to want to come here, to live here. Your property values, they're going to go up. Your kids are going to get an awesome education. This is how it works. And this is why I've been in this fight. This is why we must advocate for this district, for our kids, and for our investment in this community. I'm a middle-class person. My kids are my greatest emotional investment, and my house is my greatest financial investment. And if we don't fund this district, both are going to suffer. And that's why we have to get out there now. We as a community have to get active, and we have to invest. And it's not going to be easy, but we can do this. And I feel it more than ever in this community, that for the first time in a long time, we are a united community coming together to say, you know what? We don't just want to stay the same. We want to progress. We want to fund the strategic plan. We want to advocate for our kids, and we want to become a destination for new families who are seeking the opportunity to have great schools for their kids and a great community. We have awesome people here, awesome people in this community. But we have got to take care of our schools so those awesome people in this community can also be retained. We need to wrap ourselves around our kids, give them the technology, the education that they need, and the education that they deserve. Everything changes. When you guys look around in St. Louis, you see what happens when communities cannot take care of their schools any longer. You see it everywhere. We cannot afford to let that happen here. We have too many examples of districts that have been marginalized or have been taken over by the state. We cannot become that area. We cannot become that district. And by getting active, We're going to progress this community forward, and we're going to become the leaders in this area, in South St. Louis. I guarantee it. Thank you. So at this time, I'd like to take the opportunity to introduce Marshall Crutcher. He is the CFO for the Mehlville School District. He's going to give you a brief 5-minute snapshot of our current financial realities. Some of you have not been able to attend all of the meetings or all of the board meetings, and I just wanted to be able to give you an overview so that you understand the numbers, so that you understand what's happening. And a lot of people have told me, hey, don't preach to the choir. I get it. But when you guys have the language and the education that Dr. Ritter and Marshall Crutcher are going to give to you, what you can do with that language is take it to other people who might be confused or who might be on the fence about what they're going to do and how they're going to vote. So please welcome Marshall. Thank you. Thanks, Marshall.
Thank you, Kim. 5 minutes to go over these 5 points. If everybody has the handout, it's really important that you be able to reference that. To cover that in 5 minutes and give you full in-depth knowledge, I'm going to have to talk like an auctioneer, so I don't think you really wanted me to do that. But the bottom line is, this is important because it's important to understand that to really understand the key fundamental financial issues of the district, you don't have to be a CPA. You don't have to have attended a lot of accounting classes. I hear a lot of misguided, extraneous information that gets spoken and discussed. And if you listen to all of that rhetoric, it can be very confusing. It can make you wonder how to think about things. This sheet will really help simplify everything. If you take, almost every time I hear somebody with a comment, concern, I can take almost everything they say, compare it to these 5 areas, and see where it contradicts or it does not go along with the true facts. This sheet will simplify the district finances for you. If you understand this sheet, no matter how confusing or complex other people want to make their comments, this boils it down into the simple truths. So to go over this very quickly, we look at the first section, cash reserves. Common comments from the community are, why do we need so much cash? We're not a bank. Well, bottom line is there's 2 buckets that we look at. There's operating and there's non-operating. In simplistic terms, when you're looking at the non-operating, it's for your capital needs, for projects. It's no different than your home. If you're going to get carpeting or new siding or whatever, you go to the bank, you want a loan. The more cash you have, the better loan you get, the lower interest rate. The less cash you have, the worse interest rate. So by having sufficient cash reserves, we save the taxpayers money on interest expense on the loans for that bond. On the operating side, that's the money that we spend on our daily bills. The way the cash reserve percentages are computed, DESE, the state agency, looks at your June cash. That's the middle of the year. How do we get our money? We get our money when you guys get your real estate tax bill and your personal property tax bill. You get it in November. You pay it in December. That's when we get our money. We get our money in December and January. That's when we have most of our cash. And then every month after, our cash goes down until the following December. DESE measures our cash at June. So if we have a 17% cash reserve in June, by December, we're down to 0. So it sounds like we have more cash than what we really have when you look at the DESE numbers. So whatever our cash reserve percentage is as stated by DESE, subtract 17, and that's how much we have in December. So once again, 17% at June is really pretty much what we need to break even by the end of the year. The state average approximately for cash reserves is 36%. Each school on average has 36% reserves. The county average is around 26%. We're well below that. We're projecting 17% by the end of next year, next fiscal year. That's well below the averages. So it's important to know we don't have too much cash. We need cash to operate. Second section, deficits. Next year, earlier in the year, December, January of this school year, earlier, we were projecting an $8 million operating budget deficit. Deficit means you spend more than you make. With updated trends of state revenues and such, we updated that in the spring to project a $6.6 million deficit. And then we made the $4 million of budget cuts, so that's gotten us to $2.6 million in budget deficits for the operating funds. Once again, there's two buckets. When you look at the total budget, you've got operating and you've got non-operating. This is talking about operating. We can talk about capital another time. I can't do that in 5 minutes. So the operating really relates a lot more to the tax levy. So that's why I'm going over that tonight. So where we're at right now is we're going into the school year with a projected $2.6 million operating fund deficit projected for next year, which is only part of the total budget. Section number 3, balancing the deficits. When we make projections through fiscal year 18-19, that's 4 years out, based on our current projections, if we implement the strategic plan, we're looking right now at around a $32.5 million shortfall in cash if we don't change anything with the pattern of revenues and expenses. So to cover that, that's equivalent to really about a 63-cent tax raise on the November ballot if we were going to cover the $32.5 million. It's not saying that that's not what I'm recommending. I'm just saying that's what it would take to cover that shortfall and get us through school year 2018-19. Section number 4, financial trends. A lot of people, how did we get here? We were okay last year and now all of a sudden we've got all these problems. Well, that's not really the case. The financial trends show that, once again, how do we get our money? We get our money largely from taxes, which are related to assessed values. The assessed values in this district for the last 6 years have averaged a decline of 1.33% per year. So that heavily drives our revenues. Our revenues have only increased on average over the last 6 years about 0.75%. Our expenses have increased a little over 2%. 2% increase in expenses are pretty well managed. That's not a high percentage. But when your revenues are only increasing 0.75%, every year for 6 years, our revenues have outpaced our expenses have outpaced our revenues. That's how you get into a deficit situation. And finally, on the financial benchmarks, section 5 on that sheet, if you look at our cost per student, which is, you can look that up on DESE if you can navigate their website, which is challenging. But the cost per student on the schools that we benchmark, which are mostly our neighbors, and we picked Wentzville just because of similar size as well, 5 of the 6 districts that we benchmarked spend between 10 to 30% more per student than we spend. And I know that if you looked at every St. Louis County school, we would be near the very bottom, if not the bottom. On the other hand, how does that relate to community wealth? If you look at the property value per student at each of those districts, the community assessed property value per student on 4 of those 6 districts, they have 35 to 55% less value per student than we do. In other words, they don't have as many community assets. They're not as wealthy. So you have 4 of these districts that have less community assets, but yet they spend 10 to 30% more on their students. Finally, on the tax rates of these 6 schools, we have the lowest tax rate. All 6 schools districts have higher tax rates, anywhere from 71 cents to $1.64 more than what we have. So if we were at the very lowest tax rate of those 6 schools, that would be an additional 71 cents, and that would bring in $11.4 million of additional revenue per year. That alone would handle our deficit. In all of St. Louis County, we have the 2nd lowest tax rate in all of St. Louis County. So those are the main highlights. And once again, I remind you that when you sit around and you see articles, you hear people talk, claims of wasteful spending, or all the other things that are commented on, how does that compare to these true fundamental facts? How is there wasteful spending when we're on the bottom of spending on cost per student? How can we not afford additional money if 4 of these 6 districts have less community assets than we do? There's a lot that you can glean just off these 5 simplistic points, and not let people take you down extraneous, misguided paths of data. Stick to the true key fundamentals, and it will be very simple for you. Thank you.
Thanks, Marshall. So what I wanted to say is that several people have approached me on social media, and they wanted to do a question and answer session or open it up. And what I decided is that tonight we have to get organized, we have to do some other things. But I realize that a lot of you have questions and ideas that have not been addressed. So if you'd like, you can send Marshall Crutcher an email. It's at Crutcher, just Crutcher, M, at melvilleschooldistrict.net. Okay, so if you're interested, or you can private message me, Kim Hannon West, on Facebook, and I can forward those questions or comments to Marshall, and then you can receive a direct answer. So I really feel like sometimes our questions are so varied, and the things that we may or may not understand are so varied, it's better to be able to address them individually at this stage of the game. And then, your questions can even serve as a direction for us as we continue the campaign. At this time, I would like to bring Dr. Norm Ritter forward. He's been a busy man, and I just want to give him the opportunity to review some items with you, talk a little bit about where we're headed, and just sort of get excited about this campaign. So, Dr. Ritter.
I want to thank all of you for coming. By the way, you kind of surprised me. I was expecting about 30. This is awesome. Way to turn out. And this really does confirm my thoughts about Mehlville. I've been here a year. I've been throughout the Midwest. I've experienced many different districts. I've experienced the private, the parochial, the at-risk type of environments. I need to tell you, Mehlville has the best kids I've ever experienced. They're hard workers. They love working with each other. The North is more into collaboration than the South. Come on. Mehlville versus Oakville. But anyway, but still, it's a rich, rich culture of children. The families, I can't find a better, more hardworking set of parents and families, complete families. But also what's really kind of intriguing and interesting to me is that everybody knows. The senior citizens, the frequent voters, the parents, the students know that we have outstanding teachers. The data we collected earlier last fall and throughout the year, there's a strong sense of really what I would call a really true strong teacher who loves to work for kids. And really, the applicants that we get come with passion. And what we're finding in our research, it's not so much the salary, yes, it's salary, but also a lack of support. Being able to get that support into the classroom like we should, administratively, as well as more adults in that classroom, beginning at kindergarten, preschool, kindergarten, all the way up through really third grade. Those early years need far more support. And I'm hearing that from the teachers. I'm hearing that from the administrators. I'm hearing that from parents. So when you talk about class size, we're talking about the adults in the classroom. We're talking about getting support to the classroom. We ran out of people. We don't have people to do that. Mehlville is really, really lacking in that ability to do that. So you have quality people, you have quality kids, you have quality parents, but everybody's running out of energy. Energy meaning resources. And that's really a problem for us. So when we look at the action we had to take, and really, by the way, this is the first district I've been in where I cannot get into a school as a superintendent. I have to push a buzzer to be able to get into the school. We're safe. We're safe. Okay? But we're going to have to reduce some of our police presence early in the morning around the elementaries. We're still going to have it there, but not nearly as intense as it has been. Okay? And so that's some of the pullback. Bus fees. We're going to have some busing. We're going to be starting to charge for buses. And so we're going to have people who are not going to be willing to pay for those buses, and they're going to be waiting in line as far as getting to school. So we're going to have some issues around that. Okay, we're going to delay in purchasing buses. We're going to be delaying and replacing gym floors. I was over at Oakville today, and they're refinishing the floor over there. That needs a total refinish, and we can't afford to do that. And so what's happening is our kids are going to be competing on floors that are, if you go around the conference, you go around the area, you're going to see our gym floors are not in very good shape, even though we refinish as much as we can. Replacing stadium bleachers, and there's a safety issue at the Mehlville stadium bleachers. And then we are delaying the repair on the pool ceiling. So those are all capital projects, and those are all major safety concerns, but we had to pull back on all of those. As far as student support, number one issue that we're seeing, we're right at 80 teachers now. Typically across America, it's usually 6.5%, including your retirees, as far as teacher turnover. Okay? 80 teachers puts us over 10%. 20 of those 80 are retired teachers. So we have 60 teachers who have decided to work elsewhere. Now, there's really a positive to that, and it's hard for me to find a positive. Okay? And the positive is this. All these districts are seeing these teachers as better than any other teachers they can hire. Now, that's really reaching it a little bit. But anyway, that's stretching it a little bit, but it's true. Just think about that. These teachers are getting hired over any other teachers. So that means they're great teachers, and we're losing great teachers, and that's not good. We do, of course, have a pool that we continue to feed into, but the mature 8-year teacher is our best teacher, and we're losing a lot of those teachers. So teacher turnover is hurting us as far as student support. Less intervention and academic help. 5 of the 23.5 positions that we reduced were literacy coaches and mentors. So we're pulling some support away from those classrooms, and that hurts us. And cuts in the library, books, and magazine purchases. Now, I have to be honest with you. When I talk to my student advisory about that, they say, well, we really don't use those anyway. We're always using our technology, so anyway. But still, we have had to cut back on that, and cuts in computer purchases and instruction, and basically we've delayed a year in the rollout as far as our one-to-one initiative, as well as replacing computers. We're pushing that back a year. And then we have the musical instrument purchases, as well as cutbacks in student clubs and activities. Another thing that I see happening that I'm concerned about, and if I were a parent, I am a grandparent, I'd be concerned about the support that activities bring to our kids. And the more we cut back on that, okay, the more we're taking away that holistic child. And I'm really concerned about that. We had to cut back on that. We're trying to stay away from the classroom as much as possible. You can see that it's hurting us. Teacher support. We reduced the teaching staff by 23.5 positions. Of course, that's going to impact the class size. And also, I mentioned that 5 of those are really supporting the classroom as far as coaching and mentoring. Pay freeze. I'm not sure we're doing the research on this, but I think that's 3 pay freezes in the last 15 years. Maybe it's more. We're still getting to work on that. Depends on who you talk to. You talk to a teacher, it's more. You talk to an administrator, it's less. But anyway, we'll get that figured out. And board member, it's less. But anyway, eliminate the paid tutors. We still have tutors in our system, but not to the extent that we've had them before. Cut classroom supplies budgets in all buildings by 5%. And then we also reduced the administrative oversight. We took a major position out of central office, which is already very lean, very lean. Okay, so then the next thing we have, okay. That's it, okay. One thing I want to mention, by the way, I've been in St. Louis a year, and they say that it usually doesn't rain this much. To be honest with you, I think the rain has been good, and hopefully it's going to be something that we're going to be able to benefit from as far as waking up Mehlville. The thing that I want to mention is this. I was surprised that our community didn't know what you didn't know. Didn't know about our student performance and how in the early grades we're not doing as well as a lot of people thought. And it's mainly because we didn't have the support. All right? Another thing that was really kind of surprising and shocking is that really as our kids, and if they stay in the system, they go through the system, they do fairly well. I maintain it's not just because of the system they do well, it's because of the families. It's because of the richness of the collaboration of the students and the teachers and the wealth of that. Can you imagine what they'd be doing if we were really staffed and had the support staff that all of these districts that we compare ourselves with do have? So I really think that that information is going to change. I really feel that the Mehlville community is going to step up to the plate. Now, the bottom line is this. We did some major research early in the process and then later in the process. The research later in the process has given us some really very positive information. We've tested the frequent voters. The frequent voters know about our deficit. The frequent voters know about our academic needs. The frequent voters are saying, yes, we will support this. We have a board now that is a very efficient board, a functional board. And that's their job, to continue to be functional. You know, when you have a Jean Prado who has really got passion like she has it. When you have, I mean, she's crazy passion, all right? And you have a Larry Felton who's really highly into technology and organization. You have Vinky Pelamond, who is basically really passionate about kids and wants to spend every dollar he can, but realizes that it's hard to say no to. So to me, the board is in shape. And so really the bottom line is that this campaign needs to be highly organized. We need to make sure that the energy is going to be really well focused. It's not something where we want to waste that energy. We don't want to go door to door. You go door to door, you're going to have a lot of people pissed off. I get mad when people knock on my door trying to sell me something, okay? No, we really need to find out where people want to be heard, how they want to be heard. Eventually, I think you're going to get collaboration, cooperation. So anyway, we have an advocacy group that has started. The advocacy group is not a campaign group. The advocacy group is started because this community, as all public school communities across the country needs a focus on the child. The child must be first, not the senior citizen, not the taxpayer, the child. So we need child advocacy running in Mehlville 24/7, every year, all the time. And it needs to be very intentional. So that's what the advocacy group's about. The campaign group is about getting everybody focused, getting everybody on board, and getting everybody targeted to be able to raise the resources that we're going to need to improve, to really help our system survive and to improve our system. So anyway, I want to wish you well. Tomorrow is my last day. And, well, Gene, that's your passion, I know. That sounds like a boat coming from your cruise, by the way. But anyway, tomorrow's my last day. And I'm going to be looking at opportunities to get closer to grandchildren. And my wife and I really, really treasured the time we had here. You have taught me an awful lot. Hopefully I've been able to help you understand who you are all about. I maintain, I'm going to say this one last time, that whoever left this district or is leaving this district is going to wish they were here 5 years from now, because this is going to be the district to be in. This is going to be the district that's going to be all about kids. This is going to be the district that's going to not have the wealth as far as money, but to have the wealth of support to be able to say that their children, our children, are where we are the best. And it's going to be, you know, we do lead the area as far as kids going on to college. But I guarantee you, we can lead the area as far as kids going on to college and doing well and coming back, because this is the place to live. So anyway, congratulations on this loft. I think you're going to do really well. And I'm looking forward to watching you very closely in November as you celebrate on November 3rd. Am I right? I think it's November 3rd? 7th. It's November 7th? Oh, yeah, just a minute here. You and I ever disagree? Yeah, I don't know. No, okay. Anyway, November 7th, whatever it is. Okay, anyway, again, thank you, and I think we're ready to get organized. Kim, you ready to go?
Ready.
Let's go get them. Hey, Dan, I was right.
He's definitely going to rub it in. That's awesome. All right, so I wanted to take the opportunity. I want to introduce my mentor through all of this, Mr. Dan Fowler. He's a former board member. He has a few things to say, and then we're going to complete the last step of the meeting. So thank you.
I'm here for 3 reasons. My son-in-law could not be here tonight. He happens to own this joint, John Armago. He is here. Come up here, John. Come up here for a second. He's the father of 2 of my 7 grandchildren, so get up here. He's a great speaker, by the way.
How you doing? I'm thoroughly behind it. Andres is part of the community going on now 35 years. We're 100% behind it. Our place, our resources, things that you need will be readily available any day, anytime that you need it. So we're 100% behind it. It is about the kids, very well spoken, and glad I could catch you into that. And anything you ever need, he will call me and we'll provide it. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
2 other very short things. I want to thank Kim West for taking this enormous task on. I can tell you from having done it before, she and I had quite a few discussions regarding stress in the last week or so, and she is stressed to the max, and I tried to remind her that it's nothing compared to what it's going to be like those last 3 weeks.
It's very comforting.
I told her my mother taught me growing up that you take one thing at a time, at one day at a time, and one moment at a time, and do your best. And it always turns out, and that's what I would ask all of you to do. So thank you, Kim. And the last thing I'd like to say on behalf of the community, I'd like to thank Dr. Norm Ritter for his stewardship over our school district over the last year. Dr. Ritter did not come in here as a sitter. He actively took on the Mehlville School District like I have never seen before. And so, for the record, he and I didn't get off to a very good start. Probably my fault, although I blamed him. And then we got along really well because we got in a room together and found out we have similar personalities. Both of us have big egos. Thank you, Dr. Ritter, on behalf of the community.
Okay, take your phones out, please. So this is the part in the meeting where all of you who have come to me and have said, hey, what can I do? What can I do? I need a job. What do I do? Well, tonight you're going to get jobs, okay? So some of you may or may not have noticed that on Facebook, and I want to thank Thomas Shartner. Thomas, stand up for a minute. This is Thomas. Thomas put together the Facebook page, put together all the Sign Up Genius sheet that you're going, and I was asking Thomas how to work everything, because these are old people problems that I seem to have. Thomas, what grade are you in?
Going into 8th.
Yeah, he's going into 8th grade. Thank you, Thomas. Yeah, we have such a wonderful, wonderful student population. I also want to give a shout out to the 3 kiddos in the back corner. They have been with me since I don't know how many board meetings and educating me on their education and what they need, and they've been my sounding board. They're members of the Mehlville High School Stuco. So Devin, Andy, and Lexi, thank you 3. I appreciate it. They have been absolutely amazing. So, if you go to the settings in your phone, if you're having trouble getting on, you can choose Andres as your Wi-Fi, okay? If you need the Wi-Fi setting, I can give that to you in just a moment. But if you go to Facebook and you type in Mehlville-Oakville United Committee, our Facebook page comes up. And I have posted a post that says become an advocate. And there's a link there, and it's a Sign Up Genius link, okay? You can click on that. And there are a variety of different jobs that you can do. We're gonna have a lot of site-based management, so PTOs will be coming to you in the future. And we'll be talking about how we're going to run the campaign by site. So Blades, Woolwind, Oakville Elementary, Oakville Middle, all of you will have some site-based management there. However, I know that when I look out in this room, and I know some of you from growing up here, some of you from social media, I know everybody has some very special talents. Some of you work in finance. Some of you are educators. Some of you work in PR. I need you, okay? I am an English teacher. That's what I do. So finance people, I totally need you right now. And so we're going to put together this campaign. We're going to organize. And then I will be in contact with you. We will put together these committees. And then we will work with the sites, okay? Does anybody have any questions about this? Yes, ma'am.
Do you have the password? We can verify.
Okay, so it's 314. Where did I put my, hang on for 1 minute. 894-2622. And that's the Wi-Fi password here. It's the phone number. 314-894-2622.
No, yeah, no, we're jamming.
We're on?
No, we're jamming it.
Oh,
Yeah, it's good. Great. Freak it out.
so the system just exploded. Okay. But it's Mehlville Oakville United Committee, okay? And the link is on Facebook. You can also send a private message, or you can private message me on Facebook and ask any questions, and I can be of service that way, okay? Final word, a couple of items that weren't covered this evening is I wanted to thank all of you again for coming out during the summer when you're supposed to be off. Teachers are never off. But I also wanted to thank our seniors who have come out. And I wanted to say this. When I was young and growing up, my mom got divorced and we moved in with my grandparents who lived on a fixed income. And I watched. I knew what it was like. Every penny counted. And I get it. And I'm not standing here tonight saying that what we're going to do is fleece the pockets of our seniors. That's not what we're about. But I also saw that as my grandparents who lived in Jennings aged and went to sell their home, that the community had totally bottomed out and we got nothing for it at the end when we needed money to put into their care. Because they were middle class, that was their greatest investment. And it was tragic to watch two people, my grandpa made shoes. It was tragic to watch two people invest in their property and the community bottom out around them, and they had nothing in their property at the end. And so while I'm not here to say we're going to overtax our seniors, but I am saying that we are going to advocate for our kids, preserve this community, and make sure that you have a return on your investment. And that as all of us age in this district, that we are aging in a community that is extraordinary and full of bright people that take care of one another. And I see all kinds of people who talk about communities this way and they want to live there. And I chose to move back to this community because I knew what kind of people it had. Young, old, middle-aged, it didn't matter. Extraordinary people. This turnout tonight tells me that. So what I want from you is to understand that we will hear you out. We will work together. We will make this reasonable. But we can no longer let our schools and our facilities suffer. We can't. We have to train our teachers, we have to retain them, and we have to make this a destination community for people who want to move into an area that is progressive. Thank you all for attending tonight. I look forward to seeing you on Facebook, social media. Yes, sir.
Anybody that's good at fundraising, see me before they leave tonight.
Okay. Fundraisers to Dan Fowler, please. Thank you very much. Finance to moi. By the way, I would like to talk to finance people. Thank you again. And Dr. Ritter, thank you for doing what my grandma always taught me. You left something better than when you found it. And I think that's really a beautiful thing, and it's quite extraordinary. So thank you again, sir. I appreciate it.